Where do I go from here? I have been a songwriter. Then I transitioned over the years while still being a songwriter to being a music producer for artists for about 20 years. And then later in life, finishing my undergraduate and then getting a master's degree in composition. And at the same time, I was doing the master's degree. About 8 years ago, I was pivoting slightly from being a music production company for artists to being a music production company for libraries and for sync and for television and for film and for whatever you want to call it. Sync, if you're nasty. I got some great news yesterday from one of my exclusive library partners, and I'll share that in this historic podcast, number 150. Can it be? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think we all could use that. But here's the deal. I literally have 20 to 30 albums in production right now with my Positive Spin partners. And I'm wondering if it's getting time for another transition. I see other YouTube cohorts transitioning to being a music publisher or doubling down on being educational channels and selling communities and courses and now apps and all sorts of things. And some of them that I know are just too busy to even make videos anymore because they are too busy producing so much music for sync and other clients. I like that idea too. I had to struggle to make this video today because I have some deadlines this week. I think I am somewhere in the middle of all those people. And now I'm facing some decisions like, do I become a sub-label for a big APM or BMG or Warner Chappell library? Or do I become multiple sub-labels and multiple libraries for multiple large production companies? Or do I just keep going with the success that I'm having now with the many libraries that I serve? This is yet another video where my internal monologue spews out publicly. And maybe you have decisions on how you want to make a transition in your music life. Part-time music maker to full-time music maker, artist to composer, or composer to artist, could be. Sync licensing or stock music licensing, probably not. Coke or Pepsi. In today's possibly pivotal 150th podcast, I will explore different directions I could go and different directions you could go as we talk about you as well. Plus some exciting offers for you, some news on a big change to one of my sync libraries, and a great deal on some software that you can't really afford to pass up. So on this momentous occasion, podcast number 150, let's talk about where I could go, and let's also talk about where you could go from here. Welcome to the Make Music Income Podcast. My name is Eric Copeland, and I've made a full-time living as a music producer, composer, and arranger for over 25 years. In this podcast, I talk about making music income with music licensing, music production, music streaming, music royalties, being a music composer, arranger, producer, or artist, or really any way that I have in the past or currently now or want to make music income. I have free and paid courses and coaching and ebooks for you at makemusicincome.com/free. Make sure to like this podcast if you enjoy the content because it really helps, and subscribe if you're just finding the podcast or channel and want to be part of things every week. I hope all this content helps you make the music you love to make and make music income. So welcome to podcast 150. And again, I think that deserves a little applause. All right, let's not get carried away. So it's a circus over here. It's time. Yeah, give us some thumbs up today if you're here for the 150th podcast. There's probably been more than that, actually, with some special episodes and things like that. But This is officially episode 150 of the podcast, so thanks for joining me. Speaking of that, I have, and our 4th anniversary of Make Music Income, which is this month. Give that some love.
Yeah.
We have to just talk about a little bit of news I have for you. And to celebrate the 4th anniversary, some deals I have for you in the Getting in Sync course. I promise this won't take long. But I have brought down the Getting in Sync course to just $49 and also the Getting in Sync course and one-time Zoom to $125. You can find those both at the site in the description below. The anniversary pricing, even though I spelled anniversary wrong, master's degree. Thank you. Also, the stock music marketing course, the stock market course, which I have gone in and done a little bit of editing to based on my stock market rant of a few weeks ago. I have, this is all the time $49. So you'll always find this price, and it may even be rolled in one day to the other sync course. I don't know. You know how I feel about stock music if you've been following along here on the channel. And then also I have the 4th anniversary sale for one-time Zoom coaching is just $75 right now. So if you are interested, there are some other things that you could buy here, but $75 is 25% off of what I normally charge for coaching. So if you've been thinking about doing that, welcome to July, the 4th anniversary of the Make Music Income channel. All right, so that's what I want to talk about there. I also want to talk about the Positive Spin Partners program a little bit. And this really goes along with this video today because what we're going to be talking about is transitioning from being a person who is making some music to being a person who becomes a producer for people and then a producer for libraries. And then what's the next step past that for me? What's the next step for you where you are as a musician, as a producer of music, as a composer? What is the next step? And we're going to talk about that today for all of us. And this is kind of what we do with Positive Spin Partners. And you might be asking, Eric, do you have any things to show us about that? I do. First of all, it all goes back to the Positive Spin Songs site. And we're going to come back to this site mainly because as I look at becoming possibly a sub-label for other companies or a library or whatever, likely it'll be called Positive Spin Songs, and then I might even have Master Score Music be another sub-label under that. I don't know. But we also have the Positive Spin Partners program that you can check out at positivespinsongs.com/partners, as you see below. And I've got a video. Then there's a further page that I can send you once you get in touch with me and we can talk about you becoming a partner, because we do lots of cool things in there. You get a weekly email from me every week about what we're doing, just the two of us. And then also we have something new called the Weekly Spin Up, where we gather. It's really a Monday morning meeting to discuss everything that we're going to be doing this week, what we did last week, what we got signed last week, what we're about to get signed this week, what's already been signed. We just have to deliver it. This week, it's all been about Halloween and country. Not Halloween country, but Halloween and country. But the Weekly Spin Up is fun. There's about 20 of us, different people come every week, and we really discuss what's going on in the week ahead, in the week that just happened, and kind of looking out over what kind of albums we're going to be delivering to libraries. And like the Halloween thing, in 2 weeks of this month, the Weekly Spin Up album, we had at least 5 people, maybe 6, throw me Halloween songs. And now we've got a Halloween album that's going to be signed to BMG that because they were involved in this Weekly Spin Up, they got a song registered to BMG, which I think is pretty dang cool. And so if you're interested in that, you may want to look at that. Now, a little bit more news here that I want to show you. And folks, this comes about once a year or so. And I think you need to know about this. If you are not familiar with what Musio is basically the online app for cinesamples. And I've been using Musio for about 3 years, every day, including yesterday, maybe even including today. I have found sounds in there that I need, and it's great for layering. It's great for adding orchestral sounds you may not have from one library. That I have a beautiful Spitfire library, but it doesn't have contrabassoon. It doesn't have a lot of things that I need in there, and grand pipe organ and things like that, and then unique things. I'm not getting anything for this. I don't have any deal with Musio, but all I know is I use it every day, and $49 for the year. You will not believe all that you get for $49 for the year. It's a steal. You better go get it while they're doing this special, because I even paid $99 this year. I mean, you can get $49 anytime if you're a student or educational, and I had that. But then once I quit teaching, I didn't have it anymore. I still bought it for $99. I'm considering buying it now for $49 so that I'll be in on the special every year. But $49, guys, you cannot go wrong with that. If you use Musio, let me know. But I do, and it is a tool that I can't do without, especially for the price. So go get that, especially if you are at a place where you only have Logic or your DAW and you need some decent samples and you can't afford to spend hundreds or thousands on big libraries. Get yourself Musio and have a lot more than you've ever had before. All right, that's all the news. That is news. Be sure to contact me at popswithspinsongs.com/partners. Just go there, email me, and let's talk if you're interested in partnering with us. Lots of people now have songs or a song in a major production music library because they're part of this program. So come be part. All right, let's move into today's topic and transition into what I want to talk about today. You know, we all dream of the next step for ourselves as musicians, as composers, as producers of music, as beat makers, whatever you are. We always think, what is going to be the next thing? When I first started writing as a teenager, I was a songwriter, and I learned I could write songs. And throughout my teens, and probably all my life, even up to now, I would be thinking, I need to be published. And so I wanted to transition from a songwriter to a published songwriter. That was my biggest dream. And that was back in the 70s, 80s, when there was no internet. There was no way to contact people and email people. You could send them a literal snail mail, or you could call them, or you could go and meet them at some event or something like that. But there was no other way to do it like there is now, where we can just find libraries online and just email them. Are you kidding me? How easy that is? I transitioned from a songwriter to a producer, as I said in the open. I also have transitioned from being a now producer of artist music to a producer of production music, and still keep some of the artists involved. Some of the artists kind of come alongside with that, which is fine. I'm moving away and certainly transitioning away from being just a music producer for artists, and that's all I do for them. I like for them to have some foot in sync. They don't have to, and a few that I work with still don't. And probably in the area of gospel music and Christian music, I'll probably continue to work with some of those clients, and also any client that's come back after we worked together years past, and I'll continue to work for them. But for the most part, my focus and goal every day is albums and albums and albums for sync libraries. There's also the transition that you can make into licensing, which is what I made about 8 years ago when I kind of started hearing about it and heard it on a podcast and started to put together music that I was producing in Nashville for pitching to sync libraries, and finally found my first deal, which was with a BMG library, and went full time into that. And as I was finishing up my master's degree, I was also getting my first deal and deals with sync libraries. Another transition for me was doing some stock music, and at the time it was bringing in, $300 to $500 or more a month. And that has not been the case, obviously, lately. You can see the information about that a few videos ago. But maybe for you, it's a transition going full time with your music, which is very hard. And it's a hard life. It's a hard knock life. And it is, you have to make it happen yourself. No one is going to make it happen for you. Even if you get signed by some kind of publisher or label or something, you're really going to have to work. And if you don't do the work, nobody's going to. So you've really got to. It's not for most of you, but it might be for some. And here is where we get to the transition of what I could possibly do right now. And which is why this video is here. I usually do these videos based on what I'm thinking about today. I went to bed thinking about, is it time to transition to the next thing? I feel like I have made the complete transition from artist producer to sync producer to production music producer and composer. I'm still producing some artists, but mainly those people are also interested in sync, which is cool. Phasing out other artists. I am probably done, to the chagrin of people like our friend Lewis, who is here, and other people, of just being a studio. I'm probably not going to be able to do that as much anymore with all the other stuff I have to do. It's just, it is what it is. Unfortunately, it's just, I'm running out of time to do those kind of things. And again, some previous clients, ones that I've produced albums for in the past, and they come back, it's possible. Likely, though, I will suggest other people or have it ghost produced it in Nashville. Ghost produced in Nashville with some of my engineers. But for me, Positive Spin Songs is the focus. And again, if we look at Positive Spin Songs here, this is my focus for the future. My question right now, and my wonder right now, and my goals right now are, should I become more of a servant of bigger library companies like a BMG, like a APM, like a Warner Chappell or Universal or Extreme Music or somebody else? And I've done a bit of research. I'm talking to some of my mentors and my libraries about this. One library said they were all for it. As a matter of fact, I teased in the open that I had some big library news. And one of my libraries did come to me this week. And as you know, if you've ever watched this show before, and if you haven't, I do not mention libraries by name because that's not for me to mention. But one of my libraries just signed a deal with a larger library, one of the big four, that I am not a part of. And I learned I had an album put into that tributary of a big river that is this big production music company. So that's pretty big news. And I'm not probably treating it with, maybe it's not as big a news as I feel like, but that gives me 3 of the big 4 that I've had music in. I've had music, I'll just tell you what the big 4 are that I think are: BMG, Universal, Warner Chappell, and APM. And at this point now, I have had albums in 3 of the big 4, which I'm pretty happy about, and seem to have options at all those with several libraries that I serve. So that's pretty cool, pretty big deal, and pretty exciting for what I'm doing right now. But the question is being a music production company serving these libraries the end game for me? And I'm not so sure it is. We've talked and teased on this channel about me being a library. When you become a sub-label for a Warner Chappell or a APM or BMG or whatever, you basically are a publisher. I mean, you're basically, they're the actual publisher and you're kind of like the sub-publisher, I guess. I don't know exactly how that works. That's why I need to know more about all this and study more about this and learn more about this. But, we are getting in bigger and bigger libraries all the time. We are seeing larger and larger sync incomes all the time. And there is some question I was really struggling if I was going to do a video today. But then I just wanted to kind of talk this out today, because I'm asking questions of my library owners. I'm asking questions of other people who are interested in being partners, and just trying to figure out what the next step is. Now, it's all good for you, especially if you're one of the Positive Spin partners right now, because you'll just come along for the ride. But my goal is to take Positive Spin and make it a big company with more writers and more composers and more producers, and bring people into the fold, and then be able to offer them a large stream of one of the big production companies. And I do that now. Obviously, I just had Alita and I just got signed into this larger library through the other library that signed us. The people who are part of the Halloween album that we're finishing this week, that's a BMG project. And so they're all going to be signed to a major sub-publisher. And so everybody gets to come along for the ride as we change and as I transition. But here is the rub. I do not want to get to a place where I'm not working on this all day long. In other words, I don't mind being the conduit for people to come through Positive Spin songs and then get to the larger libraries. The problem that I have and do not want to get to is the fact that I'm doing paperwork all day and not creating music all day. Because I wake up, I'm bound out of bed at 7 a.m. every day now and get ready to get in here and make music. I'm so excited every day because of all the cool projects we have going on, and the opportunities and the acceptances of albums, and just it's an unending amount of work. My wife will always ask me, do you have any work today? I'm like, really? I always have 1,000 things to do and 1,000 songs to work on. And more are coming all the time. I can't imagine that this is going to be, and people are like, Eric, aren't you a little old to transition to a new career? Well, it's not a new career. It's just the next step of my music career. And don't ever be told you're too young or too old. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Don't let anybody put any boundaries on you. Do your thing. And I can't. My wife has given up. When you have something in your life that is such a passion, that burns so hot and can't leave your head, to the point where you have to literally go, leave your phone, leave any computers or anything, and go into the ocean, or go into a water park with no phone, or go somewhere like Disney, or that's why we moved down here, or go somewhere and do something without your phone next to you, because and get your mind on something else. I have a few games that I play that and basketball that are the few things that take my mind off music. I have to do that. You probably have some familiarity with this. And your spouses or better halves probably have similar issues. Do you ever have anyone who feels that they are secondary to your music? It is a tough thing. But these transitions still are going to happen. I am on fire, and probably, he says succinctly, I feel like I am at the peak of my career, or getting to the peak of my career. I still am not sure I've gotten there. And I have made some of the best albums I've ever made were in Nashville. But since then, since my sync career started, I think some of the music that I'm making, even this year, some of this country stuff we're working on, wow, you're not going to believe what this sounds like. I've got a cool trap album that people are not going to believe this album. I mean, it's going to blow people away. So these are some transitions I'm thinking. Do I move to become a sub-label, which could also become a library, which could also be called a sub-publisher? Do I stay where I am? That's the questions I'm having right now. Cloud9 Music says, hey, Eric, did you see the new partnerships Audiosparx has now? I also saw a big increase in earnings as well. I have only 200 tracks in the Audiosparx side. In RadioSparx, only option I have 500. So what he's talking about is there's this company called Audiosparx. It is a library. It's not a stock library. It's not really a sync library. It's just a music library that does lots of things. So many things, Cloud9. By the way, Cloud9, I need you to email me. If you're listening to me right now, put in the chat. I will email you. Just email me because I want to talk to you. But Audiosparx has so many things going on. They just sent an email out yesterday talking about all these new things. They have partnerships with AI companies. They have new partnerships they're doing with other things, including big libraries. I just got a bunch of songs out of Audiosparx. I had to pull out a bunch of stuff off Radiosparx even. I just wanted it all out. And I finally got it out. And I still have a lot of stuff in there. I have considered using Audiosparx like a sync library and giving them exclusive things. That's what they'd like. So it's possible we might do an album for them, like I am some other non-exclusive but bigger mid-tier libraries. I think Audiosparx would like to think of themselves as a mid-tier library of some kind, but I see them more on the kind of stock side because they have the Radiosparx thing, which is basically just music that is on overhead radio and on their Spotify channels and things like that. And it pays like that. It pays like streaming. You get paid pieces of pennies per play and stuff like that. I have a couple hundred tracks in there. I don't know how many I have now. It's somewhere around there. And I make about $10 to $15 a month. It's just not worth the trouble. So, but I also have given them just all my stock music, which I really think of B and C type level catalog. I don't feel like that Audiosparx or that stock music that I was doing for those years is anywhere close to the quality of my sync licensing stuff. And that might be a problem. So something to think about. Lovely Fishing Rod says, in which year did you finish your master's degree? 2021. May of 2021. Finished my master's degree in composition, which was a lifelong dream to get a degree in music composition. I wanted to as a teenager. I was too scared. And so I did nothing except go to school endlessly for years and never finish anything until I became later on in my adulthood. And I finished my bachelor's in Nashville area. And then I finished my master's once I moved down here to Florida. Angela Taylor's in the house also has something in the Halloween album, or might. I'm still working on that. Bradford Knight says, don't serve the library, be the library. Well, exactly. And that's one of the things I'm thinking about right now. Do I want to do that? Because there's a lot of control issues I have. I like to make the album covers. I like to think of the album names. I like to I build the album in my head as we are going on. And so, for instance, this Halloween album, I would love to make the cover and to name it. And I love making all the song names. Well, those get changed sometimes when you send it to the library. They do what they want to do with it, and that's theirs to do. But I would like to, I think I would be good at doing that. Now, whether that means I would never get any music made and I would have to depend on hiring engineers and all that kind of stuff, I don't know if I want to do that. That's not something I want to do. I want to sit in here, look out at the beautiful sky, which is not beautiful today. There's a big dark cloud there. And I want to make music and enjoy making music all day long. That's what I want to do. Lovely Fishing Rod says, can you sign up for more than one publishing admin? Sure you can. There are some publishers who may want to sign you exclusively. But in this day and age of multiple libraries and exclusive and non-exclusive contracts, I'm signed up to many exclusive publishers. They don't get everything I have, and they don't ask to, because they won't take everything I have. There are a lot of things the publisher or sub-library, whatever, they won't take. They say that album's not for us. So I pitch it to the next person. They say that's not for us. I pitch it to the next library. They say, ooh, we love it. So absolutely, you can sign up for more than one publisher. Love the Fishing Rod says, if you become a label, you're going to be busy doing administrative work rather than making music. Well, that's what I have to find out. Because if that's the case, I ain't doing it. I'll just tell you that right now. Let's talk about your music life. Where are you in your music life? Are you kind of transitioning from a young musician to an adult musician, which means you've just started or you're out of school and you're making beats and you're doing different things and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I turn all this into any kind of income? Which is why you're watching a channel called Make Music Income. How do I go from being a solo act, a solo entrepreneur, a one guy, to suddenly a family man? I've got a wife now, or I've got a wife and kids, and I've got to juggle all this. And again, it's a little bit what I talked about. Where does the music fit in your family life? And if anybody can get with that, they've experienced trying to balance music with family. I've been trying to do it for 35 years. It is tough. Music has been a big deal in any relationship I've been in. It's been in the middle of it, and it has to be dealt with. So when you are a single person and you go to being a married person, some of you can I get an amen? It is a different deal that you have to deal with. And so that is a transition for sure, is going from single to married or single to not single. And then children come into the thing. But then there's another transition that happens. And maybe I know some of you are here, some of that are watching, where you go from the family years, kid raising, all that kind of stuff, to the second half, or maybe the third part of your life, maybe not the final part, but the third part of your life. And this is kind of where I am, where the family, all the kids have grown up, or grown up enough that they're out of the house, or mostly out of the house. And there's more time for the music, and things can get a little bit more serious now. These have been people in this area. And it's funny because my stats say that the most people who watch me are 25 to 35 or 35 to 45. But to be honest, a good number of my clients through the years have been over 45 years old, because they're at that point in their life where they no longer are tied down to lots of children activities, and they're heading towards a time where they can kind of chill at work, or even retire early, or just retire. And so you get to this next transition where you're able to do something more, and you're like, hey, and listen, this is what I'm in. Transitioning from working for people, working for a job, to working for yourself and the rest of your life being a music income life, because you're able to finally put the time into it. You couldn't do so as a teenager because you were a stupid teenager. You couldn't do it in your 20s because you were trying to figure out how to make money and have a job in your 20s. Couldn't do it in your 30s because you're raising kids. Couldn't do it in your 40s because you were raising teens. But 50s, 60s, 70s can be like a renaissance for people. And talk about people who are prime positive spin partners, people who are in that place. Now, again, I have positive spin partners that are in their 20s. I have positive spin partners who are way older than me. And so it goes all over the place. But we all have these lifetime transition places. And it really gives you a chance to transition. And maybe you're transitioning from just being a musician to being a songwriter. Maybe you just started writing songs and composing because you started watching channels like this, or other channels where you said, hey, I can write songs. Maybe you are thinking about doing what I'm doing, transitioning from a composer or a songwriter to being somebody writing music for a company, or writing music for some publisher or something like that. Or maybe you have thoughts of becoming a music publisher. Or maybe you're someone who has been music full-time for years. It's been your life. It's been your job. And now you're kind of starting to retire and say, I'm going to take it a little bit easier with music. Not quitting, just going to enjoy writing some music. Maybe I can get some in sync. Maybe I can get some in stock. Maybe I can do something like that. Maybe that's cool. And you're kind of throttling back to a little less, not on the road all the time, not in the studio all the time, trying to make all your money there. Maybe you've taken another job. Yes, people do go from full-time working for corporate, which was me, to full-time becoming a music person. That's all where their money comes from. I did that almost practically overnight, from quitting a full-time corporate gig with insurance and all the perks to becoming a music studio person, and then later and producer. I'd already been doing that on the side, but then for whatever reason, I had to become a full-time music person. Well, you can do the opposite. And there are many full-time music people who struggle and struggle and struggle, but then they go, oh, I could also do some real estate, or I could work for this church, or I could work for a school, or I could do something else, teaching, something like that, to supplement your addiction to music. And sometimes you can teach and do church work in music, or find a job at a music company or something like that. So that's a transition that is possible. And either one of these transitions is good and fine. So I'd really like to know, if you're in the chat right now, or if you're watching this later and you're leaving comments, what is your transition? Where are you transitioning from in music? Is it from a musician to a composer? Is it from or a songwriter? Is it from a songwriter and to an artist? I had one of our people, and she won't mind, I don't think, if I highlight her for a minute, because she just released a new single, ladies and gentlemen. Angela Taylor, Ukulele Plus, just released her newest single. It's called I'll Fly Away. It's on Spotify. It just came out Friday. But she asked me the other day, it's a real balancing act to decide, am I going to be an artist, or am I going to be a composer or a songwriter? And then there are some of you who are technically advanced, and you have to say, am I going to become a producer for money, a music producer for money, as well as a musician or an artist or a composer? So these are things that we are dealing with. These are things that we are trying to figure out. What is your world? Where are you going? Where are you going to? And what is your transition? To full-time music, from full-time music, to composer, to artist, from artist to composer. And getting back to Angela for a second, we had a talk about how you know if you are more of an artist person or more of a composer person. I am definitely on the composer side. I have done 1,000 gigs in my lifetime, but I don't necessarily need to do any more. I probably will. I probably will at some point work for a church again sometime, or do some music for the stage, and I may or may not be performing it. So I could still see some transition there. This whole sync thing might be the next 10, 20 years for me, but then another step for me could be going to be more of a composer for the stage, which is one of the things that I don't have time for now. We always don't have time for something. There's always this, I've got this job right now. I don't have time to do that like I want to. Well, I have kind of put the artist thing aside and now focusing on the sync side, the production music side. But there's another side that I love. I love the idea of writing classical music for stage. Talk about something that AI probably won't have a lot of play in, is live music for the classical stage. And it's still a thing, ladies and gentlemen. You may not know, but it certainly is still a thing. And so that's another transition I may go through later. But what transition are you guys going through? Michael says, family, agreed, tough. Lovely Fishing Rod says, I do music part-time. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Bradford and I says, for me, family always comes first. But when I met my wife, I told her without music, I'd be a wreck. So she's been very understanding. Yeah, same. My wife met me when I was on the stage at a church performing for a Christmas show with a group, a vocal group, and I was playing keyboards. It was a song I wrote and all this kind of stuff. I was doing my thing. She was running sound. So she was involved in the music too at that time. She's mainly just a person who can do everything. So the church found out she could do this, and they used her to do this. But my wife has known it too. I mean, every night. At first, when we first married, I could go to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock with her, and then after a while, I had to go to bed a little later because I needed to do some work. Next thing you know, I'm going to bed at 2 a.m. because the best time I had to work at the time I was working corporate, the time I was not a morning person at that time. I had to work on my music after everybody was asleep. That was when I could work on it. And so that was the trend. And then in the past 10 years, though, I have transitioned that life into more of a morning person and stopping work at 6 and never necessarily coming in here again at night or on the weekends. So that's something I've tried to give back to her and to my family is not working at nights, not working on the weekends. Try my very best to do that. Ada G is in the house. Good to see you. So I went from being a person that tinkered with music as a young person, and now I am full-time composing and hopefully selling music. Now that my kids are grown up and gone, I have all the time. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Absolutely. And I bet a lot of you can either find yourself in that situation now or see yourself in that situation in the future or near future or a long time from now. But it comes, and I'm in that situation as well. All my children are grown-ups, and they are living their lives, and so there's not much things to do as far as driving them to soccer practice and stuff. Ukulele Plus, Angela Taylor says, composing music has become addictive. I love it. Yeah, it is addictive, and it's always been that way for me. I mean, there are times when I've been able to have other hobbies, but I don't think I was ever going to transition to a full-time author or a full-time pickup basketball player or a full-time whatever other than a full-time musician. I don't think I was going to do that. I thought there was a time when I might transition to a full-time music minister or a music director at a church or a full-time educational music teacher. But I don't think either one of those are my best destiny. I think composing is my best destiny. I think providing clients and companies and libraries with the best that I can provide them is my destiny. And so it's just at what level is where I'm talking about here. Michael says, thanks, Eric. This video really helped. Well, I'm glad that these are all supposed to be helpful. I hope they're all helpful for you guys. And if they are helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps people to see it, because a lot of these videos where I'm not talking about something like tearing down some, being all snarky about how much money that you make in stock or quitting, stock or whatever. And I do have some ideas to do some more videos on some companies that are out there. But to be honest with everyone, I am just too busy. So busy, in fact, that, and I don't like when people use the word busy, but when you have 20 albums going on with over 20 different people that are helping part of this, that's going to 20 different companies and more than that as far as people that you have to talk to in there. Yeah, I think you can call yourself busy. And so today I have to finish up over today and tomorrow. I'm going to be really trying hard to finish up 3 country albums and 1 Halloween album in order for these to get out and off and get contracts signed and all that kind of stuff. That is the reality of my life and why I don't have that much time to edit videos and make more videos. So everybody, thanks for watching today. I hope you got something out of this, and I hope whatever your transition is, it is smooth. And if you need help, make sure you check out our deals. If you need to talk to me, if you just need to, listen, I need someone to talk to, and likely you need someone to talk to. You need some help. You might need some help spelling like me. You might need to take a course or do some coaching, for a pretty low price, and just come and talk to me and move your music forward. And I totally get that. So make sure you take advantage of the holiday pricing. It's July 4th holiday this weekend, but it's really more about the holiday of the 4th anniversary of this channel, which is officially July 21st, I believe, is when my first video went up. And there will be a big party on that week as well here on the channel. And maybe even the Wheel of Free will show itself and come back, and we'll have a big fun time giving away some free stuff and all that kind of stuff. But for now, I'm going to go off and make some more music and get these albums done and settled so that we can sign contracts and they can get out and start finding uses on television. Remember to go to positivespinsongs.com/partners if you're interested in being a partner with me. I would love to talk to you personally through email. This is not something that's open to everybody. I have to see something in your music that I think works for what I want to do and think that you could be a partner who could help. And it is not a free program and it's not for everyone. So you will need to check it out and see if you're interested. But there is a link right there for you, .com/partners, and you can see a video about it, read all about it, find out if it's for you, and then be able to contact me. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being part of the show today. Had a fun time, and I hope you did too. And we will see you next time on the Make Music Income podcast. Have a good week.